What's up, guys? My name is Skill37, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the Beast, Resistance 3 for the PlayStation 3. Now, if you have not played Resistance 1 and 2, stop, go to Best Buy, go to GameStop, get yourself the dual pack, the Resistance dual pack. You get Resistance 1 and Resistance 2, alright? Both are fucking phenomenal games. Resistance 1 was a release game with the PlayStation 3. It had pretty sharp-looking graphics considering the year it came out in. It was a hip shooter, very fast-paced. Right? You can actually still get games online. You know, you can get custom games online and shit. You can search for custom games. People are still playing that game. Very skill-oriented game. No trophies. Resistance 2 was a complete overhaul of Resistance 1. They gave the game a brand new art style, new ambiance, new theme, new gameplay, everything. It was a complete rehaul, but it was still Resistance. And that game is still very much populated in the auto matchmaking aspect and the custom games. People love the Resistance franchise. And the trophy for Resistance 2 is well worth going for. It is such a good trophy. I got the Platinum for Resistance 2. And I will most likely go for the Platinum Resistance 3. Resistance 3 takes the best of both worlds. They brought back the fast-paced gameplay of Resistance 1 with the hip shooting mechanics. And they brought back the control scheme of Resistance 2. The game has a much darker tone. The game is has a much more serious feel to it. And while it still feels like Resistance, you can see the obvious changes to make the game feel more adult-like and more serious. Like, it's such a stronger tone with this fucking, third installment. And I'm going to say that this game was well worth the wait. Very minor flaws. Nothing actually worth nitpicking about. I will mention them, but it will not actually affect the score at the end. And this is, one of my favorite franchises. I love me some first-person shooting, and I love the Resistance franchise. All right, every Resistance, it always introduces something new. Every Resistance game is different. Like I said, Resistance 1 was mainly a hip shooter. Resistance 2 was slower with a more Call of Duty-based gameplay. And then Resistance 3, they mixed it up. So it's fucking phenomenal. Yeah. So let's do this. You are Joesph Capelli, all right? And if you don't know who Joesph Capelli is, because you have not played Resistance 2, he was that fucking asshole douchebag that helped walk around with the Wraith like he was fucking Jesus Christ and shit, Mr. Unstoppable. And you were playing as him many years in the future. He is not the same guy he was in Resistance 2. No longer is he battle-hardened. Now he's really laid-back, chill. He looks out for his family, looks out for the people he watches over, constantly on the run from the Chimera. Right? When his fucking town gets invaded and they gotta once again move, he meets up with a returning character from the Resistance franchise and they have to make their way to New York City because something's about to go down, aka the Ice Age. The world's about to freeze, and it's up to a very certain returning character and Joesph Capelli to travel to fucking New York, because we haven't been there 1,000 fucking times in other video games, to bring a stop to the upcoming Ice Age. All right. I didn't expect a storyline like that. It works. I was expecting more something along the lines of we're going to fight another big main player in the Resistance franchise. But sadly, with Resistance 3, you play as Joesph Capelli, and you don't go after anyone huge. You more or less go on a mission to save the world, but this leaves a door for an obvious sequel. And sadly, the ending, which was both good and bad, it's a good ending. It's the kind of ending I was expecting, but it doesn't leave nothing open. Like, you really can't tell it's gonna be a sequel. There's gonna be an obvious sequel, but the way the game ends, you can't really tell. It's just like, but the game itself was fucking phenomenal. The single player was so awesome. All right, if you do not plan on buying this game because you're tight on money, but you do love a good story and you do love a campaign that's actually built right. You want a first-person shooter with actual good bosses. You want a first-person shooter with a plethora of fucking weaponry that upgrades on the go. You want a first-person shooter that'll blow your fucking mind, because this shit is just fucking bananas. The way whenever you get into a specific new area, it's just awesome. All right, the single player. The single player takes a brand new approach to unlike Resistance 1 and 2. Resistance 1 and 2, relatively straightforward. With Resistance 3, it goes for a much darker tone. In this game, it's very dark. Not only is it very dark, this game tries to be a horror game at times, and it succeeds. Lots of times, you will get jumped, and when you turn around, enemies will be right behind you, charging at you. You no longer simply just fight Chimera. You fight a plethora of other monsters too, including mercenaries and human beings. You will find yourself on a moving train, a fucking deserted village. You will find yourself in a fucking asylum, a prison, all types of places. And of course, you know, typical Resistance edition, you're gonna find yourself on a Chimeran battleship or shit like that. But unlike the previous Resistance games, there's a lot to do. When you're in a level and you progress, there's lots of detours you can take. Yes, it is point A to point B like typical other first-person shooters, but there's different ways to approach point A to point B. You can go left or right. You can go in buildings. You can go through rooftops. All right? And you're rewarded for doing so by finding new weapons, having a bunch of fucking hordes of enemies to kill, and just playing the game your way. The game is a mixture of fast and slow pace. Slow pace in the sense that you can travel around. Fast pace when the shit gets serious and enemies come at you. You can play like Resistance 1 and rely on the hip shooting mechanic that works really well. The hip shooting is not off the hook like it was in Resistance 1, but it's definitely back. Or you can play the game similar to other first-person shooters, aimed down sight. There's 4 different types of grenades. All right, you have a fuck ton of weapons, such as, you know, your typical assault rifle, the alien submachine gun, the 3-shot burst rifle, a rocket launcher, or a sniper rifle. What if you're not into them fucking guns? What if you're just tired of the cliche weapons that you see in every game? Okay, how about a gun that fucking mutates enemies and fucking deteriorates them? How about you refreeze an enemy and with the secondary fire blow them to fucking pieces? All right, how about we have a fucking rocket launcher, right? That with secondary fire shoots a single rocket, goes up into the air, and turns to 10 different rockets. All right, how about a fucking an atomizer gun that just turns enemies, just straight up annihilates them? So many different guns. A shotgun that has dragon rounds. Like, it's so crazy how this game is now, and the guns upgrade you play. Basically, just use the gun for an extended period of time. The gun ranks up. Every gun has 3 ranks to them, and the gun will change in appearance and what it can do. It's on the go, super fast action fun. Single player is well paced. Some parts of single player are a little different. Like, you're gonna find yourself doing stealth missions, taking it slow, going fast paced, fighting hordes of enemies. And if you're very unfamiliar with the Resistance franchise, this game is very gory. This game is gory as fuck. When you get to later parts of the game, especially when you're fighting human beings, and you blow them up, you will see half their heads on the floor, fucked up, eyeballs out of place, shit crazy as hell. This is a very dark, creepy fucking game at times. Alright? This is the best Resistance in terms of story, pacing, weaponry. Now, the graphics. People are talking about the graphics, a lot of mixed emotions. Insomniac does not attempt to go for best looking game on PS3. They go for a unique art style. When enemies are close on your screen, or the screen is very dark and a flash is on your enemy, it is a very, very nice mix of realism and obvious just fucking hand-drawn and watercoloring, all this shit. The graphics are so different and unique. It's fucking awesome. Alright, the way the game looks, the way the game plays, it's great. Very, very, very rare minor frame rate dips, very minor, rare hiccups. And the lip movement could have been a lot better. Now, in important cutscenes, the lip movement is actually very strong. And like when you go up to random AI, and yes, there's lots of AI in this game now, lots of people you can interact with, people that fight side by side with you and shit now, their lip movement's a little off. But other than that, it's the graphics are actually, I love the game's art style. Right? Just because a game doesn't look like Killzone, just because a game doesn't look like Uncharted or Assassin's Creed, doesn't mean the graphics suck. Everyone has a misconception. There's different types of graphics. There are associated graphics, hand-drawn graphics, watercolor graphics. Not every game wants to look realistic. Not every developer wants the game to have realistic-looking characters. Some developers want the game to look like a comic book in motion. All right? Some people want the games to look like a cartoon in motion. You got to appreciate and really look at the graphics and see what they achieved, how they achieved it, and how well it is presented. And Resistance graphics are, in fact, good. But like I said, very rare, minor frame rate dips and hiccups. Okay? It's the honest truth. And the lip sync is a little off. The sound effects. The guns are more intimidating this year. Voice acting is a bit on and off at some points. Capelli as a character talks line cutscenes, but similar to Resistance 1 and 2. Resistance 1, Nathan Hill was a silent protagonist. In Resistance 2, he happened to talk a lot. They mix it up. During the game, Capelli never really talks. During cutscenes, Capelli actually says what he has to say. The general ambiance is actually a mixture of awesome, holy shit, and oh my god. Because when you fight enemies, the roars they make And the fucking ambiance sounds like a mix of a typical gladiator movie meets God of War. Yes, like I actually just said that. When you are in, like, especially in the asylum, or you're fighting a bunch of Grims, and you hear this crazy gothic-like music, it's creeping you the fuck out. Sound effects are fucking on point. The voice acting could have been a lot better though. The controls. The controls are perfect. Why? Because Insomniac, everyone's taking notes from Insomniac. 100% fully customizable controls. If I want the fucking throw grenade button to be L3 or R3, not sure why anyone would want to do that, I can make it that. I switch my controls up. I make L2 my duck bind, and I make circle my throw grenade. I keep it simple for me. You can make the controls any way your fucking heart desires. Therefore, the controls are perfect. They're smooth, responsive. Nothing to complain about the controls. The online, they removed Resistance 2's co-op, which kind of disappointed me. I'm very surprised by that. The Resistance 2 co-op was fucking awesome. Very repetitive, but it was a nice distraction from Resistance 2 multiplayer. They brought back Resistance 1's co-op where you play with a partner. Either split screen or online, I believe. I did not play co-op. I did not plan on playing co-op. When I go for the Platinum Trophy, maybe a month or two down the road, I'll tell you what a co-op is. Just so you know, it exists. It's campaign co-op. You know, one person plays Capelli, another person plays either a soldier or his wife, whatever. Old school, sofa, online, old school co-op. The online, Resistance 2 was known because it had a very large amount of players. People think that large amount of players means better time. People have this misconception that anything more than 6v6, 8v8 is supposed to be amazing. No, it's called a clusterfuck. There's a reason Resistance 3 doesn't no longer do it, no longer does 64 players. For more immersive battles, the maps are smaller, they're more in your face, the maps are balanced. The respawn system could use some work, but I never had an issue ever ending up in a one-on-one with people. Remember Resistance 1, where you ran into a little player, you got into a little contest, you would circle each other and shoot from the hip? That is back. In Resistance 2, they got rid of that. The weaponry needs to be balanced a little bit. Like, prime example, the bullseye will usually outshine the carbine because if it's high rate of fire, and if you upgrade the bullseye, it does a lot more damage than the carbine. So things will eventually get patched. There is some frame rate dipping and hiccups in the online, but these will all be patched. Patch 1.01 was released on day 1, and then Insomniac plans releasing another patch tomorrow on Thursday. So be on the lookout. They are constantly going to update servers, and one of their claims was they couldn't test the servers as much as they would like to, even with the beta, because when the Sony had the PSN outage, it really fucked up everything they were working on. So they had to release the beta that was fucked up, fix it as much as humanly possible during the beta. They didn't actually get to fix 100%. They had to release the game. The game online is much better than it was in the beta, but it still has issues. But they came out and said the reasons why, and they promised you give them another week or two, it'll all be fixed. The first patch 1.01, is almost 1 gig. They fixed a lot of frame rate issues, graphical issues, and shit like that. But yeah, the online has typical game modes: deathmatch, small deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture flag, a couple of other objective-based modes. Nothing too much. Then they got a hardcore mode. If you don't want to deal with all the fucking objectives, attachments, perks, all this other shit, leapers, hardcore mode, it's not extra damage. It's just called hardcore mode because it plays like Resistance 1. Old school Resistance 1. Pick just run and gun, basically. Not too many game modes, which is the way to go. And, the maps are good. A lower player count than previous games for more immersive battles. Resistance 3 is an all-out, straight-up fucking awesome game, right? The ending could have been better, and there are minor issues here and there, but nothing that actually deters from the overall game. I actually am a bit upset that they removed the awesome co-op in Resistance 2, as repetitive it was, and brought back the story co-op. Why couldn't they just do both? Story co-op and that extra co-op. But whatever. It's very obvious Insomniac is very true to Resistance. They're going to keep updating it. They updated the fuck out of that beta almost every day. So trust me, the online will be fixed. My final score for the game is a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 is my final score for Resistance 3. Thank you for watching this review. Everything I stated and more will be in the video description down below. Check the video description for my written review. Tell me what you guys think of this video. Give me a thumbs up. Help me get my reviews out there to more people. Tell me all about tell my channel. Tell your friends about my channel and shit. And peace. bitches.